Hey there again, and welcome to the space that gives you inspiration on work, on life, and how to balance both worlds. I hope you have your cup of coffee, your cup of tea, your glass of juice, your glass of wine, anything that tickles your fancy, and a pen, a paper, a notebook, because things are gonna get serious. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you know every time a video goes up. Now, you guys got me, I got a DM. It was an interesting one but then it also made me realize that I hadn't made something clear last week, okay? And it was of someone asking me, so when I think of these things, if you haven't watched that video, please go and watch it, because this is a series. I do series. I can't do one-off videos. It's a series. So watch last week and then you can come back here. But what she was asking was, so I think about these things, then what? Now, one, don't just think about them, write them down, okay? If I were to just give you a glimpse of what this analysis looked like for the Cradle, this was something that we did in 2018 for our 2018 to 2022 strategy. And so two things that you can do with what I talked about last week. So one, when you're thinking about it, you need to write it down, okay? So this is how we did it at the Cradle for 2018-2022, and so now 2022, we've already started working on our 2022 to 2027 strategy, okay? Although we're trying to push it to like 2030. But that said, that's what our strategy, the analysis that I talked to you about last week, that analysis is supposed to be written down, and then it's supposed to help you in writing your business strategy, okay? So it's just the first step. Meanwhile, it's but you need to write it even before you start business. Honestly, even before you start thinking of doing business, you need to do an analysis, and it's called a situational analysis. It's an analysis of the macro environment. Those of you who didn't like school, guess what? I brought you to school. So when I did this, when I looked at this, I said, well, maybe I can get a little deeper for those of you that are in early childhood. And for those of you that are not in early childhood, just compare tomatoes and onions and come up with an analysis of your own, okay? So now I realized when we're doing this in 2018, we didn't have to do an entire pestle analysis. We just did a pest analysis, okay? So that's a political, economic, social, and technological, okay? So one of the things that we talked, three things that we had three findings in our political factors. Remember the political ones that I talked about? One, there was really no government policy on early childhood. Two, there was none, or really the laws on childcare provision were really and then there was introduction of universal education, okay? So our first finding, when you look at a finding and say, okay, so fine, one, there's no government policy on early childhood and early childhood development, although right now it's actually in play, and it's just left with a few approvals from Parliament, and then it will become law. So right now this doesn't apply, but I did this in 2018. So one of the things that we said was, okay, so now that we found out that our finding was that there's no government policy, so what's the analysis or the evaluation? One, that means there's no quality assurance checks. No one is going to check early childhood centers. There was no consequences for poor services because, well, no one was checking. There was low service standards because who was setting the standard anyway? And then the quality standards were non-existent, okay? So that posed an advantage to the Cradle, because then that meant that for the Cradle, all we needed to do is set up quality standards for the Cradle, make them known to parents and to our teachers and our caregivers, follow those standards. We actually have in our organogram, and one of our staff members is a quality assurance manager. Why? Because we realize that there's no government policy, and so that means if we set up our own standards, that meant that we would, inadvertently, without even thinking about it, take ourselves to another level as a business, just because we saw that. Another political finding that we found was that I want to do the second one because I need to do this real quick. But remember to apply this to your own business. Another finding that we found out was there was introduction of universal education. And that's both universal primary education and universal secondary education. So what does that then mean? Because you have to go from the finding to go now into an analysis of your finding, okay? So if your your finding is that there was an introduction of universal primary and secondary education. Therefore, what's the analysis? And therefore, what does that mean to your business? So in terms of our analysis, we realized that there was an increased number of rural girls in school, okay? And that means there was a lower housemaid labor force in homes. So what does that mean for the Cradle? One, it gave us an opportunity for us to be able to go into homes with our caregivers, because now moms were realizing that they weren't getting a good nanny labor force. Because imagine, all the girls who could have been house girls, the higher standard of housemaids, had now gone to do universal secondary education. Then the next level had now gone to do universal primary education. That means the girls coming into our homes cannot even afford universal primary education of 8,000 shillings a term. Now that means the quality is extra low. And we then realize that now moms are going to realize that these girls can't take care of our children. We need to have a housemaid and somebody else to take care of our child. So that means when now we started to think about what services we can have in terms of our business strategy, one of them was providing childcare services in homes. So do you see how you can use I have no control over universal primary education. I have no control over universal secondary education, but it provides an opportunity for my business. You understand what I mean? So that's how you then, so when you're hearing all these things that I'm discussing about, this pastel from last week, and now we're coming into our businesses, like you're now writing out your pastel. What's the reason as to how you want to do it then is when you find a finding, get the analysis of it, and then determine how it affects your business, okay? Hope that makes sense. So we now knew with this introduction to universal education, no labor force, the labor force was so cheap that moms would be able to afford to have two maids, because if they had not two maids, one maid and then another one to take care of the children, well, for some people, yes, that does mean two maids. So that was political. Under economic, there was a particular factor that I thought I should share with you. One, which was increased women economic growth. Okay, so because there was a need for families. Okay, this one's a good one, but it makes me go to social first before I come here to economic. But anyway, let me share. Because of women emancipation, okay, that's a social factor, that drive for women to take up their place in society, more women were starting to work, okay? And so because of that, there was an increased economic growth. Also, this increased economic growth affected families in such a way that now salt, which was 200 shillings, was now 1,000 shillings, and we need another person to work in the home so that we can afford to buy salt of 1,000 shillings, because the current income could only buy salt of 200 shillings. We needed someone to come and add on the 800 shillings for us to make 1,000 shillings to buy salt. So we had more men and women from the same home going out to work because of an increased economic growth. That was the finding, okay? How that affects us, therefore, is that moms and dads were not home because they have to work. They're not home, they have to work. So who's taking care of the children? Opportunity for us, okay? What that meant is we had more women in more managerial roles, meaning they needed even more help because those women are more learned, know what they truly want for their children, know what they want for their career. So bam! Who falls in line? The Cradle. You know what I mean? we had fewer or no stay-home moms, or fewer, let me say fewer. But with time, you'll have more stay-home moms becoming working home moms. So that means they will still need our service. We're like, bang, let's do this. You understand what I mean? So because of that finding that there's an increased women economic growth, we were able to come up with the analysis and therefore the opportunity for us as the Cradle. I want to talk about some social factors. The first one was the emergence of women emancipation. I talked about that previously. What that meant is, in terms of the analysis, was there's more educated women, there's more skilled women in business and in the marketplace. There is going to be more lobbying for workplace childcare. Okay? This is 2018, before noise of workplace childcare comes up, right? But we're already seeing it, because if we have more women in managerial roles, they're going to demand for workplace childcare. So guess who falls in line? That's an opportunity for us, okay? But also with increased women emancipation came high divorce rates, okay? Came or will come. I mean, I'm seeing it now in 2022, but we wrote this in 2018 and we're like, with this women emancipation, there's going to be higher divorce rates, because women are more educated. They know their rights. They know what's right for them. They know what's good for them. They know what's bad for them, okay? So there are higher divorce rates, meaning we have more single parent headed homes, either the dad or the mom, okay, running the home. That means they need help. If it's difficult to raise a family when there's two of you, how much more when there's only one of you? So we realize that there's an increased, or there would be, well, now there is an increased single parent headed homes. The second finding we found in the social was that we have a high fertility rate, okay? It was 6 children as at 2018, and now we've improved to 5.7 children. Uganda has the youngest population in the country. The children under 4 is the highest, or is the biggest age strata, okay? 45% of the children, this statistic, but let me try and not 45%, 14%. Okay, so Uganda already has the youngest population in the world, second youngest population in the world. Are we good? We're good. That's already an opportunity, right? Because we have very high fertility rates and very high birth rates, okay? But as if that's not enough, the age group 0 to 4, okay, in terms of age strata, okay, so 0 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 12, 12 to 16, 16 to 20. So in those age strata, the 0 to 4 strata is the biggest strata in terms of numbers in this country. 14%. The rest are 12, 10, 5, 6, 2. So the 0 to 4 has the highest strata. Darlings, if you're not in early childhood right now, which business are you? In fact, it's one of the reasons as to why I find it very easy sharing a lot of the information of what we do here at the Cradle with you. You know why? Because I can't reach all the children in this country. As it is with all the childcare centers you see around, all the nursery schools you see around in this country, just drive and just start to count along just one road and just start to count the number of childcare centers or nursery schools you see on that road. There are so many, but guess what? Our penetration is only 13% in the entire country. Of the biggest strata, age strata, 0 to 4, in the second youngest country in the world. Guys, this is the industry. This is the industry to be in. Early childhood is the industry to be in. So, in terms of success, the probability of success is way higher than the probability of failure, okay? So we realize that we have high fertility rates. So what does that mean? We realize that women are going to start desiring a quality life. They're going to start desiring quality childcare for their children, okay? We realize that the statistics, some of the people that were giving birth to this high number of children were teenagers. So they would need childcare. That presented an opportunity for the Cradle. Another thing that we saw was increased child abuse, okay? What that meant is we had more people who were violating children's rights, abusing children, trafficking children, sexually harassing children. This would be people in homes. Therefore, it would be safer for children to be outside home than to be in their homes. Now, this we did in 2018. Guess what? COVID-19 hits. What's the one thing that our Minister of Education says? I never knew it, and it's a shame that our schools are safer than our homes. We saw this in 2018. So when we sat down, we saw that, okay, so there's increased, so we found increased child abuse, but in terms of the analysis, we had to define which child abuse were our children experiencing. Another thing that we realized that there would be increased fear causing parents to use any infant care service, even if it's poor service. So we needed to give a good service. And then we also realized that would mean we'd have more stay-home moms. Haven't you seen that happen? Yes. And then lastly, technological factors. Okay, so we've done political, we've done economic, we've done social, now we do technological. We realized that there's high technological advancement. Okay, there's an increased use of mobile phones and their applications. There was use of nanny cams and CCTVs for housemaids in homes. There's increased use of childcare apps by childcare service providers, or there would be. Or for us, it would pose an opportunity if we used a childcare service app. And that's why we are actually in the process of creating our very own childcare service. So you can get a child carer into your home. You can get all the activities that your child is going to do from the time they are born up to when they go to school. You can do activities with your children. You can look at using those activities. You're able to tell whether your child is above or below developmental averages. Isn't that so cool? Anyway, another thing that we've realized is that there was an increased business process computerization or automation. And so that became a thing for us at the Cradle. We needed to automate all of our business processes. Businesses were small with limited use of right business processes for success. That's what we were seeing. We're also seeing that there was government intervention to help small businesses through companies like Will and PSFU for them to engage in technology in their businesses. So that meant for us a very huge opportunity to use technology in our business. Now, I've just shared with you how we did our own analysis, and this analysis then helped us to write the strategy for the Cradle. Now, if you know anyone in early childhood, send them this video, send them this link, let them watch this video, and let them sign up for the childcare business course, because we even talk about so much more in that course. Okay? And now, if you're not in this business, tell me how you're going to apply this analysis for your own. If you're not in the early childhood business, tell me how you're going to apply this very knowledge that I've given you in your own business. Until next time,